Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat petang. InsyaAllah pada hari ini kita akan bersama-sama dalam program ilmu iaitu program Professional CV and Resume Writing Workshop. Bengkel ini merupakan sub-program bagi program Alumni and Career Virtual Expo atau lebih dikenali sebagai ACE. Tahniah kerana pada hujung minggu ini anda telah bersedia untuk bersama-sama mendengarkan perkongsian berguna menerusi slot pertama program Alumni and Career Virtual Expo. Mewakili seluruh jawatan kuasa pelaksana, saya mengambil kesempatan ini mengucapkan selamat datang kepada semua yang sudi meluangkan masa untuk bersama dengan saya dan panel kita pada hari ini. Buat pengetahuan semua, program kita pada hari ini merupakan anjuran Sekretariat Alumni dan Kerjaya Kolej 10 yang dijalankan secara siaran langsung menerusi YouTube channel Kolej 10. Baiklah, sementara menanti program ini bermula, buat sahabat handai sidang hadirin yang dirahmati Allah sekalian, sekiranya anda belum menekan butang like dan subscribe, jom kita sama-sama tekan sebagai tanda sokongan terhadap YouTube channel ini. Saya turut berharap agar semua yang hadir ke program ini untuk terus kekal sehingga ke akhir rancangan. Sebelum majlis kita bermula, di sini terdapat beberapa ingatan mesra buat semua pelajar. Program ini hanya mempunyai sekali sahaja paparan kod QR yang akan dipaparkan iaitu kod QR untuk Google Form yang digunakan untuk merekod kehadiran pelajar dan dalam masa yang sama akan digunakan untuk pemberian merit dan ECJ. Justru sila pastikan tuan-puan berada dari awal slot hingga ke akhir dan imbasan kod QR ini dibuat. Pastikan tuan-puan bersedia dengan telefon bimbit masing-masing dan kekal sedia setiap masa. Terima kasih. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat petang dan salam sejahtera. Yang berusaha Encik Gerald Lee, pengasas Touching Heart Bridging Minds, selaku penceramah bengkel kita hari ini. Yang berusaha Profesor Madya Insinyur Dr. Nuraini binti Abdul Aziz, pengetua Kolej 10, barisan pengurusan kolej, fellow-fellow kolej, seterusnya semua peserta program Professional CV and Resume Writing Workshop. Alhamdulillah, syukur kita kehadrat Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala dengan limpah kurnia dan izinnya dapat kita bersama-sama lagi dalam program dalam talian kita iaitu sub-program Alumni and Career Virtual Expo. Hadirin yang dirahmati sekalian, sebelum kita lanjut lebih lagi, elok andainya jika kita buka program hari ini dengan bacaan doa terlebih dahulu. Oleh itu, dijemput saudara Muhammad Ikhwan Affan bin Ruhaini untuk melafazkan doa.
Umul Kitab Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wal 'aqibatu lil muttaqin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Ya Allah, ya Rahman, ya Rahim. Hanya padamu sahaja kami panjangkan kesyukuran atas segala rahmat dan berkat-Mu. Bersempena dengan majlis pada hari ini, kami mohon inayah dan taufik-Mu. Kurniakanlah kesejahteraan dan kebahagiaan kepada kami. Bukakanlah hati-hati kami, lapangkanlah dada kami supaya kami dapat mengisi ilmu dan pengetahuan berguna untuk agama, bangsa dan negara. Kami mohon kepadamu agar engkau berkatilah majlis ini dengan limpahan rahmat-Mu. Semoga segala usaha kami dalam menjayakan majlis ini mendapat keredaan dan hidayah-Mu. Sesungguhnya pada hari ini, kami berkumpul kerana-Mu, ya Allah. Kami berkumpul untuk menimba ilmu, bertukar pendapat, mengimbangkan buah fikiran, menghubungkan silaturahim dan memberi sokongan ke arah meningkatkan lagi prestasi kami. Kami mohon kekuatan dan hadrat-Mu, ya Allah, supaya kami yang hadir pada hari ini agar kami dapat melaksanakan segala kebajikan dan kami pohon perlindungan dengan Engkau daripada melakukan keburukan. Ya Allah, kurniakanlah kepada kami kekayaan ilmu, pengetahuan dan hiasikanlah diri kami dengan sifat lemah lembut. Serta muliakanlah kami dengan ketakwaan dan indahkanlah diri kami dengan kesihatan. Allahumma inna na'udzubika minal baras wal junun wal juzam wa min sayyi'il asqam. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. Wassallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Amin amin ya rabbal alamin.
Terima kasih saudara Ikhwan Affan atas bacaan doa tersebut. Semoga program kita pada hari ini berjalan dengan lancar insya-Allah. Baiklah, sedikit berkenaan program Professional CV and Resume Writing Workshop. Kepada yang masih tidak tahu, program ini merupakan program anjuran Sekretariat Alumni dan Kerjaya yang terdiri dengan 2 slot, di mana slot pertama hari ini dianjurkan khas bertujuan untuk meningkatkan kemahiran pelajar dalam pembikinan resume dan BT kurikulum CV agar kita semua akan mendapat pendedahan awal terhadap dokumen-dokumen penting ini sebelum melangkah ke latihan industri maupun alam pekerjaan. Bengkel pada hari ini akan terbahagi kepada 2 pusingan. Pusingan pertama adalah bengkel resume beserta slot soal jawab. Manakala pusingan kedua pula adalah bengkel CV berserta slot soal jawab. Oleh itu, sekiranya terdapat sebarang kemusykilan berkaitan isu di dalam bengkel ini, sila tinggalkan di ruangan komen pada bila-bila masa sepanjang program ini berlangsung. Pihak kami akan mengambil beberapa soalan secara rawak untuk ditujukan kepada penceramah kita di setiap soal-soal jawab. Seterusnya, sidang hadirin yang dirahmati Allah sekalian, panel jemputan kita pada hari ini bukan juga calang-calang orangnya. Nama diberi Encik Gerald Lee, beliau merupakan pengasas Touching Heart Bridging Minds. Selain itu, beliau juga merupakan perunding kepimpinan bertauliah di Global Academy of Finance and Management dan pelatihan bertauliah di Selcom Axiata Infinity. Kemahiran beliau dalam job hunting strategi sememangnya tidak diragukan lagi kerana sudah beberapa kali beliau terlibat secara langsung seperti program Career and Entrepreneur UPM Fest Anjuran Pusat Pembangunan Keusahawanan dan Kebolehpasaran Graduan atau lebih dikenali sebagai CHAM di Universiti Putra Malaysia. Tanpa melengahkan masa lagi, saya mulakan pusingan pertama bengkel kita pada hari ini iaitu bengkel penulisan resume. Dengan segala hormatnya, dijemput Encik Gerald Lee untuk berkongsi ilmu beliau.
Alright, thank you Shifa, and thank you to Kolej Sepuluh for hosting my session today and hosting me today and inviting me to share my tips and my knowledge on how to prepare a good or winning resume or CV. Alright, good evening everyone. Selamat petang semua. Boleh dengar saya kan? Boleh dengar?
Boleh.
Boleh ya. Okay. So to everyone who is watching it on YouTube live now, I'm also looking at myself on YouTube live. Yeah. Can you put it into the group chat number 1 so that I know that you are here? Just put it into the group chat number 1 dalam live chat kat YouTube. Ya. Supaya saya tahu you all semua boleh dengar saya. Boleh tak? Ada yang tulis boleh, ada yang tulis dengar. Alright, bagus. Okay. Today's session, saya akan berkongsi dalam dua bahasa, ya, bahasa Malaysia dengan bahasa Inggeris. Right, I will mix both languages. So, if anything that you don't understand when I'm speaking English, just put down into the group chat, into the live chat that you need some clarification, and saya akan berusaha lah, ya, untuk menerangkannya dalam bahasa Malaysia. Right, okay. Let me share my screen. Alright, I can see banyak nombor 1, bagus. Right, so that you are actually listening. Very good. Alright, give me a while. Okay, I hope you can see my screen right now. Right, yes, today's session is about resume and also CV writing workshop. Right, as what Shifa sudah has mentioned earlier, ada dua slot. Slot pertama bertentang dengan resume. I'll teach you how to write a good resume, what resume is all about. And slot kedua will be on CV. Okay? Right. Okay. What I'm teaching you today, sebenarnya apa yang saya akan kongsi hari ini is actually part of my career coaching webinar series. Right, this career coaching webinar series, I've been hosting it since MCO, that means since 2020, and I do it every weekend actually. Right, so apa yang saya akan kongsi ialah daripada pengalaman saya, daripada persepsi saya, perspektif saya, bukan persepsi, perspektif saya. Right, so there is no right or wrong to resume writing or even CV writing, or to the format of resume or CV. What I'm sharing with you today is based on my experience of writing a resume or writing a CV, and also based on my experience reviewing resume or reviewing CV, right? Because dalam pekerjaan saya, right, whenever syarikat ada vacancy, ada kekosongan dalam jawatan, guarantee lah, bertimbun-timbun resume dan CV akan saya terima. So saya akan berkongsi macam mana saya review or how do I pick up the best candidate from the CV or from the resume that I receive on a consistent basis, right? So again, is what I'm sharing with you today. There is no right or wrong. It is based on my experience and based on my perception. Okay. All right. Before I move on, let me share very quickly who am I. Siapa pensyarah atau penceramah hari ini, right? So I'm actually a sales professional. I'm still working. These are some of the companies that I worked in the past. Saya bekerja dengan Unilever as my first job. Lepas tu I moved to Selcom Axiata. I moved to Ferrero, Majlis, Etika Group, and the last role was in Red Bull Malaysia as the general manager. Right. I'm also the author of this book, Climbing the Corporate Ladder and Trying to Not Fall Down. Inilah buku tentang macam mana saya, my journey lah, perjalanan saya dalam corporate, right, dalam kerja corporate, right. So it's all about my experience of climbing a corporate ladder and how I actually stay there in my career. This is a book that I may be giving away to all of you at the end of today's session. So stay till the very end and I'll tell you how you can actually get a copy of this book. All right. I'm the founder of Touching Hearts, Bridging Minds. This is actually my learning portal. I'm also a mentor at Growth X Academy Asia and Future Lab Malaysia. I mentor students and I also mentor business owners, independent business owners, entrepreneurs on how to grow, how to scale their business. I'm actually a certified trainer by HRDM Malaysia, also a leadership consultant certified by GFM. I am also certified in NLP coaching and also practitioner by the American Board of NLP. I'm also a timeline therapy practitioner by Timeline Therapy Association. And I was the coach trainer, COA, CH trainer by Celcom when I was still with Celcom Axiata many years ago. Right? So in short, this is who am I. And what I'm sharing with you, at least you know that it comes from experience of me going through the life journey and also my career journey. Okay. All right. These are some of the companies and also the universities that I've trained and people that I've spoke to, I've enriched, which have actually produced results both career-wise in a business and also in their life. All right. And quickly, just to show you some of the photos, I know sekarang MCO kan semua lockdown. Semua online, tak macam dulu. Saya boleh buat live face-to-face sessions macam ini, right? So I miss all these face-to-face sessions because I can get a lot more interaction. But because sekarang semua online kan, webinar, semua virtual, kadang-kadang tak dapat macam mana? Interaksi, right? Engagement from you all. Like now I'm talking to a screen, I can't see any of your faces, I can't see any of your reactions. So please engage with me. Right, whenever ask questions, kalau saya suruh you tulis nombor 1 dalam chat, tulislah nombor 1. Right, so at least I know you are actually listening to me. Okay, so these are some of the sessions I've done in the past. Just to show you some of the sessions, this in Common Ground where I train some people. These are all virtual. These are all virtual events in all the local universities. I've done many times in UPM. Tadi Shifa ada beritahu kan? Yeah, I was a speaker at most of the events in UPM, in UKM, in some of the other U's as well. Okay, so basically these are some of the events that I've hosted in the past, and of course now with everything online, I've also moved online as well. All right, okay. Before I go into the resume or CV writing portion, I think all of you are here because you want to know macam mana tulis, macam mana prepare, macam mana menyediakan resume atau CV yang I don't know how to translate winning, but I think that's something that will lead you to getting your job, right? You want a CV atau resume, kalau you masuk, you hantar kepada you punya potential employer, they will pick up that resume and CV and call you for interview. Betul kan? How many of you actually wants to write or wants to learn how to write a winning resume or CV? Can you put in the group chat number 2? Put in the group chat number 2 so saya tahu this is your objective of why you're here today. Kalau saya tengok YouTube live ada 145 orang sedang menonton hari ini, saya ingin tahu sama ada objektif anda sama dengan objektif saya pada hari ini. How to learn to write a winning resume or CV. Yes, I see a lot of number 2. I see a lot of me. Excellent. Yes. So I know all of you are here because you want to learn how to write a winning resume or CV. Excellent. And thank you for your time of being here. Saya tahu hari ini hari Ahad malam 8 lebih. Right. I think a lot of you probably ada banyak benda yang mungkin lebih penting macam tengok Netflix, right? But you are here today to listen to me. I'm very happy. And I'm glad for you all that you are not spending your time watching Netflix. Okay. Before I go into the resume or CV, saya tahu semua akan tanya soalan ini. Apa bezanya resume dengan CV kan? Apa bezanya resume dengan CV? Okay, kalau you Google, you find that there is differences and you also find that there's similarities. Ada persamaan, ada perbezaan, right? Misalnya, if you go to countries like UK atau negara Eropah, right, you find that there is no difference. CV, resume actually sama, seakannya sama. Tapi kalau kita lihat dalam konteks di Malaysia, resume and CV looks the same, sounds the same, but it's actually not very similar. There are some slight differences, ada perbezaan, right? And I'll share you what are the 3 key differences between a resume and a CV. Later, when I go into the resume and later CV, you can make a decision whether do you want to send in a resume or send in a CV to your potential companies. Okay? All right. What are the key differences? Apa perbezaan? Number 1 is the length. All right? Resume, maximum 2 helai kertas. Maximum 2 pages only. Maximum is either 1 to 2 pages maximum. But for CV, there is no length restriction. Tak ada limit of how long it can be. Okay? When I started my job, I had very few details to put into my resume. So it's usually 1 to 2 pages. As I move along in my career, right, I find that resume is not enough for me. In my opinion, this is my personal opinion. I find that resume is not enough. I prefer to use a CV, okay? Because I can write a lot more things. I can detail a lot more of my achievements, things that I've achieved in my career in a CV, okay? So that's the difference. It's 1 to 2 pages long, maximum for resume, tapi untuk CV, dia tak ada had, okay? Tak ada had. You boleh tulis lah 10 muka surat kalau you ada banyak benda untuk tulis. Okay? Tapi make sure relevant. Alright. The second key differences is the content is different. Okay? In a resume, your content is a summary. It's a summary of the things that you want to share. Whether is it in terms of your education background or in terms of your working experience. It is always a summary. It's concise. Right? Padu, tepat. Right? Because again, it's maximum 2 pages. You can tulis banyak-banyak. Versus CV, comprehensive, in-depth, you can write a lot more things. Okay? So for skills and qualification, it is for a specific role only, relevant to the job that you're applying for. Example, if you are applying for a job as an engineer, applying for a job as an engineer, make sure your skills and qualifications is relevant to the engineering job that you are applying for. Okay? Sini ada engineer? Anyone that's engineers? No engineers here. Okay, if you're engineer, just put Y. Just put yes. Okay? So I'm just giving an example. So if you are aspiring to be an engineer, maybe you can use some of the examples that I'm going to share. Okay? Second thing is the content is detailed description, relevant academic and professional achievement. This is for a CV. Detailed. Okay? Detailed. Everything is very detailed. You must go into the details. That's why there is no length restriction. Example, if you have a lot of things to share, use a CV because you can write as much as possible as long as it is relevant. Okay? Viviana asked a question. Sorry, I know it's not a Q&A, but since I can see that group chat, should I include jobs I had don't relate to the job that I'm seeking? Okay. If you are writing a resume, I would suggest not to put in jobs that are not related or not relevant. Because you must remember, resume 2 keping kertas sahaja. Maximum 2 keping kertas. 2 pages. Okay? So don't put anything that's not relevant. Right? But later I'll go into the resume and CV workshop that I'll teach you more. Okay? Finally, the key difference in a resume and CV, it is the purpose. Okay? What's the intent? Kenapa you mau guna resume atau you mau prepare satu CV? Okay? It varies according to job requirements. If you look at the standard stuff, Google or whatever not, right? Sometimes people say that just use a resume if you're applying for a job. Use the CV if you are applying for academic purposes. That is one. Number 2, it also depends on the job requirements in the sense that is the company you're applying for. Kalau you tengok post, I mean the iklan, yeah, the post of the job, right? More often you'll find that the job will tell you, please submit your CV to apply for the job, or please submit your application with a CV attached. When they write the CV, tolong hantar CV, jangan hantar resume, okay? Kalau dia tulis resume, hantar resume. Tapi kalau dia tulis resume /CV, then make sure you send both. Okay, you send either one. Sorry, send either one. Okay. And one more thing is why the purpose difference between resume and CV is also because of geographic location. But again, we are in Malaysia. Kita kat Malaysia. So tak ada geographic difference. Geographic location in this sense is in US or in UK. You find that different countries use different format. In UK, they usually like to use CV. In US, they like to use resume. But we are in Malaysia. Kita kat Malaysia, tak perlu bimbang nak guna format yang mana, resume ke, CV ke, yang mana betul, yang mana salah. Okay, it depends on the job requirements. Kalau company tanya, sila hantar resume, sila hantar resume sahaja. Okay, faham? Alright, understand, right? Okay, there's a question, which transferable skills are most in demand by employers? Yes, I will try to answer that later. Okay. Now let me move on to resume writing. This is the part of slot nombor 1, right? Tentang resume writing. I will share with you some of the criteria that companies look for. That's one. I also share with you the same criteria that I will also look for when I review resumes. Okay, I won't talk about CV until much later. Let's focus on resume. Okay, alright. Saya nampak kat YouTube tak nampak muka saya, tak apa. Yang live part macam semua biru, merah dan pink. It's okay, you can still see my face at my slides. Alright, okay. Okay, let us go on to the criteria. Okay, criteria yang penting, yang patut, saya rasa lah, yang patut ada dalam resume. Alright. Okay, first thing first, the format. Alright, 1, 2 or more. As I mentioned earlier, maximum 2 pages. Okay, maximum 2 pages. Jangan lebih. Okay, kalau mau lebih, go into a CV. Okay. Second thing, layout. I will show you an example later. Lepas ni saya akan tunjuk satu sample of a resume, and you'll find that resume punya layout berbeza dengan layout pada CV. Content mungkin sama, mungkin sama, ada yang berbeza, tapi layoutnya berbeza. You find it in a layout in a resume, it's always like 2 sides, right? There's the left-hand side where you put in your profile, your details of yourself, you put in your skills and so on and so forth. On your right-hand side, you will put in the rest, which your education, your work experience, so on and so forth, right? Later, when I show you the example, that's easier for you to understand, okay? Again, the format vary according to job applied. Why I said that? Okay, in the past when I conduct resume clinics, ada student tanya, boleh tak saya punya resume tu berbunga-bunga, ada mungkin color dia lain sikit, biru ke, pink ke, right? A bit more, more creative and so on and so forth. First thing first, I need to ask you, right? You need to ask yourself, so what job are you applying for? If you're applying for a let's put it a professional role, engineer, right, or a person in sales or doing marketing or whatever, then make sure the format, right, of the resume is simple. It is professional, means could be a white background, right, or could be a light beige or light blue, right? But if you're applying for a role in a creative agency, creative work, right, then maybe you want it to be slightly more creative. Fonts may be very different. Maybe colors are very different. Maybe you put in a little bit more creativity into the format to show that you are the right person for the role. Okay, so as I said, the format depends on the job you're applying for. Okay. Secondly, photo. Optional or compulsory? Can I ask you this question? Di resume, you kena letak foto tak? Can you put into the live chat if you feel that yes, must have a photo, letak yes. Those that say no means no need photo. Can I see your response if it is a yes or a no? Is photo optional or compulsory in a resume? Right. One say no, Rafiq yes, Fikri yes, Fazli yes, Amira no, yes, no. Optional. I like Renisha, optional. Yeah, very good political answer. Okay. Yes, no, yes. Okay. Well, to a certain extent, Renisha is pretty close there. It actually depends on you. Okay, you will find that in some of the job posting, they have to list very clearly. They'll state it very clearly. Please submit your resume or CV with a passport size photo of yourself. Right? Usually it will state that in the job posting. Jikalau ditulis begitu terang sekali, please include a photo of yourself. Please make sure you have a photo of yourself. Okay? If not, I will leave it optional. Okay. Again, from my experience, ini from my pengalaman of submitting resume since day one sampailah sekarang, sekarang saya guna CV lah, sampailah the last day I submit resume, saya tak pernah letak foto. Okay, I've never include my photo into my resume, but that is me. Okay, so if you listen to other speakers or other trainers, some will say, yes, please put in your photo because it's important. Some will say it's not important, don't need to put it in. I would like to leave it to you. If it is required by the job, right? It's required by the job, please put it in. If it's not required, I leave it to you. If you feel that it is worthwhile for you to put a photo. A photo nowadays is not compulsory. It's not mandatory nowadays. It is optional. Okay? It is optional. Okay. But jikalau you mau letak foto, if you want to put in your photo, make sure number one, passport size. Okay? Passport size. Number two, professionally taken. Jangan guna kamera sendiri ambil selfie letak kat resume. Macam ini. Please don't do that. Okay? Please get a professional photographer and take it nicely. I would say that it's LinkedIn quality. You semua tahu LinkedIn kan? Semua ada LinkedIn account. Saya harap you semua ada LinkedIn account. Right? So the photo that you use in your LinkedIn account is always a quality photo. Use the same quality photo in your resume. Okay? Spend a bit of money lah. Ya, saya tahu suruh professional photographer tangkap gambar memang mahal sikit, tapi berbaloi. Because you probably going to take once. You boleh guna setiap kali. Alright? Okay. The next thing you mesti ada di resume anda semua is your objective. Why are you applying for this job? What is your objective? What is your career or job objective? Okay? Some people don't put objective. What they put is they put in your profile. Or I would like to say, I would summarize it as an executive summary. Alright? Summarize yourself. Who are you, right? But if you don't want to put a profile, you can put in objective. Make sure it is very, very clear what's the purpose of that resume. Example, right? Why I'm applying for this job is your objective. I am someone who is aggressive or whatever not, seeking employment or seeking job opportunity in a progressive company where I'm able to contribute or where I'm able to add value, right, to the organization as a whole. Example. So that is an objective. Okay, that's an objective. All right. Please make sure you put in an objective. Don't leave it blank. Okay. Even though you're applying, kalau you apply untuk internship, pun letak objective. Okay, letak objective. Then we go on to education background. Mesti ada kan? You must have education background kan? Your education background, make sure you start from new to old. Okay? Sekarang you semua kat UPM. So UPM should be the first one on top. That is the newest, that's the latest. Okay? UPM, bachelor in ABC, whatever it is. Yeah, CGPA, whatever not. Right? Kalau you ada dean list, list dekan kan? I think this dean list, list dekan. Right? Or even any certification or any awards that you want in UPM, please make sure you put into your education background. Okay? Your education background, make sure relevant. Apa yang letak di bahagian sini, make sure relevant. Relevant in the sense that, okay, again, I go back to how many pages is a resume? 1 to maximum 2 pages. Kalau you tulis education background, UPM, lepas tu diploma matriculation, lepas tu SPM, lepas tu SRP, lepas tu tak ada tempat. Okay? You will have no space in your resume. So when I say relevant, I would suggest number 1, UPM, number 2, sekolah menengah. Okay? Kalau ada SPM, STPM ke apa, or matriculation, That's it. Okay, don't go anything further because you don't have space. Okay, you must remember, human kertas limited, terhad, 2 helai sahaja. Okay, maximum. So please make sure the right word here is relevant. That's what I want to say, relevant. Kalau tak relevant, jangan letak. Okay, because tak ada tempat. Bukan saya tak mau you letak, bukan you tak mau letak. Okay, kalau you mau isikan lebih banyak details of yourself, go into a CV. Alright. Next, work experience, same with work experience. New to old, relevant, detailed, highlight key achievement. Okay, mungkin you akan tanya saya masih di university, tak ada work experience. I can guarantee you, you will have work experience. Number one, you ada internship kan? So internship is your work experience, alright? Internship is your work experience. So put in internship as work experience in the part of work experience. Example, even though you kerja sebagai intern selama 3 bulan saja atau 1 bulan pun tak apa. Asalnya ada 1 bulan atau 3 bulan atau 6 bulan, as long as you have experience, please place it, please include it into your work experience. Some of you may ask, how do I share achievement? How do I share the details or relevant of the job? Okay, same thing. In most of the resume, example, kalau you bekerja sebagai, just take one example, even as a cashier, right? Even as a cashier, okay, you will have key achievements, right? What have you achieved as a cashier in that job? If you are intern doing, let's say, I don't know, lab work, example, a lab, right? Makmal, kerja kat makmal, right? Same thing, you will definitely have achievements that you have done in that job. A lot of times, people always use the resume and list down the task apa mereka buat. Number one, saya, example, if you are cashier, number one, saya kutip duit. Number two, saya reconcile the money at the end of the day. Example, that is task. Task is not important. What is important when a company looks at your resume, they want to know what have you achieved. Okay? What have you achieved in that job? Example, as a cashier, yes, your job is to collect money. Example, but what can you actually share as achievement? Example, you can use that. Throughout my 3 months as a cashier, I've achieved 0, right, shortage. That's very different. 0 shortage. That means every time you reconcile your money at the end of the day, you have no losses. You see the difference? When you share that versus you share a task, I collect money, versus I ensure there is 0 shortages every month. Can you see the difference? Berbeza kan? It's very, very different. Okay? So make sure put in achievements. Okay? Don't put in key tasks. Understand? You understand the difference between key tasks and achievements? Right? Okay. Then of course there's a portion on activities. All right, activities is where you put in your co-curriculum, your projects you host or you organize at UPM. Let's say example, for this event, right? This virtual expo. If you are the ahli jawatan kuasa, then you letak ahli jawatan kuasa untuk project ni, right? So this is where you put in your activities, your voluntary work, or your big projects, right? So make sure you put in activities. Why activities is important? Okay, why is it important? Because it will tell the potential companies that you are active in university. You do not come to the university, not go to university just to study. University is a place for you to learn, okay? If all of you are in university right now to study, I'm sorry to say you have wasted your time in university, okay? Whether it's 3 years or 4 years. When I was in university, of course, study, you have to study. But end of the day, I focus on learning. I joined a lot of activities. I joined a lot of societies. I was part of a lot of projects, right? I'm actually an alumni from UPM. Saya pun dari UPM, right? When I was in UPM, I was also part of the committee who organized career fairs. right? I was also the committee for a lot of Isaac projects. I'm a very active member of Isaac, right? So again, it's in university, don't spend your time hanya study, which is belajar. Go and learn, okay? Join projects, learn. That's how you pick up your leadership skills, you pick up your communication skills, and that's very, very important because later, that's where you're going to put it into your resume, okay? If you attend trainings or courses, if you have, please put it in as well. Again, relevant trainings. This is where I talk about skills and languages. Put in relevant skills. Example, leadership skills is a very important skill in the job market, in the corporate world. Number two, communication skills. And if you find that communication skill is probably the top skill that is required in a job market. If you Google, you'll find that Warren Buffett actually said that if you can't communicate, then you have a problem. Okay, it's not about the rest. It's not about leadership. It's not about digital marketing and whatever. Not that a lot of people keep telling you, yes, this is a time where it is an online world. Everything has gone digital. Digital marketing is important. Sure, but if you cannot communicate, you cannot convey the message of how important digital marketing is to your potential employer, it doesn't really make a difference. Right now. So please pick up your communication skills. All right. And the point I want to highlight, of course, is list only, no rating or ranking. A lot of speakers may tell you that, oh, okay, put rating. Example, if your skills is leadership skills or communication skills, use communication skills as an example. If you think you're good, letak 5. If you think not so good, letak 3. If you think you're really bad, letak 1 atau 2. Right now, do not, I would suggest, do not put ratings or ranking because ratings and ranking is subjective. To you, you are number 5, terbaik dalam komunikasi. But when you go into an interview, if you speak badly, your resume will mean nothing because you put number 5. But to the interview, they say, oh, you are number 3. You understand now? So rating is always subjective. That's one. Number 2, when you put 5, when you put 3, or you put 2, what is that definition? Apa nombor 1 maksudnya? Apa maksudnya nombor 1? Apa maksudnya nombor 2? To you, nombor 5 terbaik. But to the employer, he may say, I only got 3 ratings. 1, 2, 3. Number 3 is the best. Number 2, average. Number 1 is the worst. That's it. They only got 3 ratings. But you give yourself 5 ratings. Right? So there will always be dispute. You understand? So do not. A lot of you may say that must put rating because saya tengok template kat Google, banyak rating, dia tulis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ada yang letak ada bar, right? They put a bar panjang, bar pendek, bar sederhana panjang dan whatever not. Let me tell you, from my experience, it means nothing because both parties were different. Both parties mean you and the company you're applying for will have 2 different approach of measuring that skill or even measuring that language. Talk about language. Bahasa Malaysia. Fasih tak fasih? You letak fasih. If you're fasih lah, if you're proficient in the language. Fasih tu nombor berapa? Rating apa? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sampai 10. Mana? You understand now? So it's the same thing. Whether it's English, whether it's Malay, whether it's Chinese or whatever language, rating means nothing. So I would suggest just list it. Senaraikan skills dan language saja. If you have communication skills, list down communication skills, leadership skills, negotiation skills, problem-solving skills, proficiency in Bahasa Malaysia, proficiency in English, proficiency in whatever language that you are familiar with. Okay? Don't put in ratings, don't put in ranking. Okay? Clear? Huh? Right. Okay. Interests and hobbies. In most resume, no one will tell you to put interests or hobbies. Seriously, right? And rarely you see a template where there is interest or hobbies. To me, it is very important. Okay? Because end of the day, the employer who's going to get a resume, they don't want to hire somebody, right, who is going to be very boring or who only knows nothing except studies, who are very good in studies but has no life, right? No life out of study. You don't want to have that. Okay? Hence, you must put in interests or hobbies. Why I wrote that is relevant because you may have a lot of hobbies. Example, one of the hobbies is you suka tidur. Tidur pun hobi kan? Right? Menonton Netflix pun hobi juga. Right? But is it relevant? Is it relevant to the job that you're applying for? Not relevant kan? So don't put in all this. Okay? But hobbies is important because as you can see from my slide, it is your unspoken truth about you. Unspoken truth means it is about you that you will never write it in your resume. But if the person looks at it, they will know that you have that characteristics. Saya beri satu misalan, ya, satu example. Okay, satu contoh. Sini ada siapa suka memancing ikan tak? Fishing, memancing ikan. Okay, example. If you have a fishing hobby, you love to fish, what does this tell the person about you? Can anybody write down in the live chat, if you have a hobby, which is fishing, anybody who sees that hobby, what will it tell the person about you? Come on, write down in the live chat. I want to hear your thoughts. Okay, right. If you suka memancing ikan, right? Apa characteristics? Betul. Thank you. One, penyabar. Patience. Excellent. What else? Patience is one. Yes, exactly. Right? So you don't need to tell the company that you're applying the job for that you are a patient person. You don't need, right? By the interviewer, looking at your hobbies, they will know that you're a patient person. Because you can agree with me lah, fishing you need a lot of patience. You boleh lah memancing dari pagi sampai malam tapi tak ada ikan. Okay, but you are still there, right? Because you just want to make sure you get a fish. Okay, focus. Thank you. Yes, focus. Because in fishing there is only one objective, kan? Satu objektif saja. Memancing ikan. Get fish. Outcome is to catch fish. Whether it's catch a fish, catch a lot of fishes or not, but at the end of the day, it's about catching fish. Okay? Never give up. Correct. It's about never giving up. Because when you're fishing, as I mentioned earlier, dari pagi sampai malam, mungkin you tak dapat seekor pun. Right? But you still be there, waiting patiently, never give up, still focusing on the job, still focusing on that hobby, and eventually, if you get one, wow, sedap kan? You get that fish. Okay, now I can go back home. Okay? So, fishing as a hobby tells a lot about you. So, interests and hobbies. Don't think it is not important. A lot of people say, tak perlu lah. Resume tak perlu letak hobi lah, tak perlu letak interest. More important ialah work experience lah, education background, lepas tu skills and language. Cukup. Yang lain tak perlu letak. From my experience and from what I've been teaching so many people all the time, you must put in hobbies. Okay, I hope this is an aha moment for you. A lot of you may say, tak perlu hobby, right? But it's definitely a criteria you must put into your resume. Okay? And finally, at the end of every resume, you have this kind references, kan? Right? References, again, is people that you want to refer to. And the people that the company will call up, they will contact this reference to check about you. How are you? Who are you? What are your strengths and weaknesses and so on and so forth. Make sure letak maximum 2 saja. Okay, you may put 1, but 1 is a bit too few. 3 or 4 is a bit too many, right? So I will usually suggest letak 2 saja. Jikalau you tak ada referee atau you tak mau berkongsi referee, in your resume, just put in upon request. Okay, references upon request. Or you can remove that column altogether. Okay? So far, so good. Alright, let me show you the sample. Tadi saya beritahu kan, saya tunjuk the sample of how a resume looks like. This one can I tell you. Can you see the sample? Okay. You look at this resume, you'll find that resume. Let me see if I can change my pointer. Okay, nampak pointer tak? Okay, I think you can see my pointer, right? Okay. So, if you look at a resume, as I mentioned earlier, dia ada dua bahagian, you see? Ada bahagian sebelah kiri, dan sini bahagian sebelah kanan. Okay? So this is just an example. This is actually not, it's not a good or bad example, right? It's just an example. I want to show you how a resume look like. You find it here. Of course, this is where you put your name lah. That nama. Okay. This resume has a profile. Remember, I told you earlier, you have a profile, right? Here, highly capable with how many years experience in multinational companies, right? So you can put a profile either here, or you can put your profile in this column here. Okay. If you see this column on the top bahagian kiri kan ada information, this is where you put in your phone number, your email, and sometimes you put in your profile here. Okay, tak perlu letak address. Okay, I don't recommend putting address, right? I usually recommend only phone number, email, and if jikalau you ada website sendiri, okay, website sendiri. Okay, maybe some of you use Wix kan, wix.com to prepare your own website. You can put it under your email. After email, letak website sendiri. Jikalau tak ada website, tak apa, you boleh letak you punya LinkedIn profile, right? www.linkedin.com/your name, whatever it is, right? So put in that. Some people put in this part, which the profile under here. They put it on top profile, and then they put in their details. Okay. Then you put in your employment history. Okay, this one tak ada education because one page. Actually, it's 2 pages, but just show you if it's 1 page. You put in your education background dulu, then your employment experience or your career experience or your work experience at the bottom. All right. This part is where your skills and language is. Okay, if you tengok sini, this is the where the rating is. Jangan letak rating macam ini. Example, customer analysis penuh. Research and documentations, 3 suku. Apa maksud? Okay, so don't letak rating, don't letak ranking. List down saja. Skills, list down. Customer analysis, product strategy, research and documentation, and so on and so forth. At the bottom here is that's where you put in your references. Okay, that's where you put in your references. All right. Oh, sorry. Emily said, can you please enlarge a little? Appears slightly smaller. Hold on. Okay, let me see. Can you see it now? Sorry. Well, looks like I can. Yeah, I can expand. Give me a while. Let me go out and double check. Okay. Just let me make it bigger, if you can see. Okay, let me share again. Give me a while, let me share the screen again. Okay, right. So, yeah, this is slightly bigger, but this is probably the biggest. Okay. So, where I was showing earlier. Okay. So, as I said, in a resume, you have 2 columns, which is the column on your left and the column on your right. Okay. The column on your right is where you put in, number 1, your education background, your activities or your projects, right? Employment history or work experience, okay? And probably to a certain extent, you can put in your hobbies or interests. Column on your left is where you put in your profile and everything about yourself, information about yourself. You put in your skills, right? You put in your language and you put in your references. Okay? All right. Clear? Clear tak? Semua? If you are clear, can you just put in clear? If you have questions, just put out in the group chat, then maybe the MC will pick it up and I will be able to answer them later. Okay? Jikalau clear dengan penjelasan saya, just put in clear. Excellent, excellent. All right. Okay. All right, great. Okay. Alright, I've actually come to the end of the slot number 1, okay, which is on resume writing. Okay, I will pass it back to the MC, and hopefully MC will be able to pick up questions and I will be able to answer them as much as I can, right? Okay, so I pass back to Shifa.
Terima kasih Encik Gerald Lee atas perkongsian yang amat bermanfaat dan padat sebentar tadi. Seterusnya, kita akan bergerak pula ke sesi soal jawab resume untuk pusingan ini. Oleh itu, sekali lagi saya menjemput Encik Gerald Lee untuk menjawab persoalan yang ditanyakan oleh para hadirin.
Okay, let me check. Hold on, let me see if there are any questions. Right. Okay, there's one question here. Thanks Shifa. Okay, one question is, apakah silly mistake yang selalu terdapat di dalam resume? Okay, what is a silly mistake that's often found in the resume? Alright. I mean, based on my experience of reviewing resumes, one of the biggest mistakes, and I find that it is unforgivable to a certain extent. Ya, tak boleh dimaafkan, right? Because you must remember, bila you hantar your resume to the company, you ada satu chance saja kan? You have only one chance, right? I'm sorry you can't see my face again. I think there's some technical error on my end, right? No worries. You just listen to my voice, okay? One of the most critical, mistakes that one must not do and must not have in a resume is, number one, before I answer that question, ask yourself, right? You will only send the resume once. Sekali saja kan you akan hantar resume, betul tak? Right? Sekali saja. Right? You will never have another chance of sending the same resume to the same company. Correct? You only have one chance. So make sure your resume tak ada kesilapan. Whether is it in terms of grammar or in terms of spelling. Okay? No error at all. Because if there is an error, the first thing that interviewers or the person who looks at the resume will feel is that you are not serious. Because, as I said, you only have one chance. Sekali saja chance, right? If you miss that chance, that's it. So, if I'm you, I will make sure my resume has zero errors. Check, recheck. Lagipun, you punya resume berapa keping kertas, right? How many pages of paper? 1 page minimum, 2 pages maximum. You cannot be saying that, cannot be telling yourself, 2 keping kertas pun saya ada error. That would to me will tell me that you are not serious in submitting your resume. Okay? In the event that you do a CV, it will be 10 pages or 20 pages or 15. Even worse, right? So make sure when you go into a CV, which I'm going to share later, make sure it's the same thing. No errors. Okay? Right. Let's move on. I hope that answered that question. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Let me read first. Okay, as we are living in Malaysia, is it okay if we refer? Sorry, what happened to the question? If you refer the resume or CV format from other countries like Europe, etc. Okay, as I mentioned much earlier, different countries look at different formats, right? In the US, America, right? They use a lot of resumes. In UK, they use a lot of CVs, and to them, CVs is exactly the same as a resume, all right? But in Malaysia, in a Malaysian context, I don't want to go into that difference. What I can tell you is, CV is a longer version of you, resume is a shorter version of you. That's very simple. Just remember this. You want a short version or long version? You want a short version, which is maximum 2 pages, use a resume. If you want a longer version of yourself, you want to share with the world a lot about you, use a CV. Okay? Just remember this, so it's easier. Don't look at whether is it a resume format or CV format from other countries or not, because we are not in US or UK. Unless you want to apply for a job in US or UK, then go back into the job requirements. What is required by the company? Company suruh you hantar CV ke resume? Kalau dia suruh hantar CV, hantar CV. Kalau resume, hantar resume. Kalau dia suruh letak foto, letaklah foto. Yeah, okay? Right. Okay, next question. Wah, banyak question. Okay, bagus. Thank you for putting the question. Letak banyak sikit, yeah, so that at least I can share more. All right. Next question regarding the reference. Is it better for us to put both lecturers, or one from previous employer and one lecturer? Okay. Both are okay. Right. Both are all right. All right. You can put lecturers because they will probably be the ones that know you better, and know you the best, right? If you're in your final year, you buat final year project paper, mesti ada thesis kan. So there is a supervisor who's also your lecturer, correct? So that person will know you the best. Put that person as one of your referee. Definitely, number one. Number two, maybe you have a lecturer that you work very closely with, or your dekan pada you punya faculty atau sekolah, whatever not it's called, right? Use that as a referee as well. However, jikalau you ada internship and you have a relationship with your employer, which means the employer knows you very well, right? You have really, really good remarks, really good feedback from your employer, then use the employer as your referee as well. So you will have one employer who will tell the company about your career achievements. At the same time, you have a lecturer who will be able to share with the company your educational experience. So it becomes a balance, right? But if you don't have any employer, then use both lecturers. Okay, I hope that answered the question. Right, let's see what else. Okay, yes, there's another question. What a suitable font and font size can be used in a resume? Okay, all right. I usually use the standard font, which is, let me see. Actually, I have no preference. I mean, to put it up front, I have actually no preference in the font, right? But at times I use Arial, at times I use Time Roman, right? And if I look at my current format that I'm using, I use Tahoma. Okay, there is actually no fixed font or font size. Okay, remember, go back to the fundamental. How many pages is your resume? Berapa keping kertas again? How many? Boleh tulis dalam live chat tak? Berapa keping maximum? How many pages? 1 or 2, okay? 1 or 2 pages. So, if you are going to put a very big font, example, letak 20, how do you going to fit into the resume, kan? Common sense, okay? Common sense, right? So, while there is no actual font size or font to be used, use common sense when you do a resume. If your resume has a lot of things to write and 2 pages pun tak boleh habis, maybe you need to squeeze the font slightly smaller. That's one. Or you squeeze out, you remove, right? All those contents, all those contents, all those details that are not relevant so you can fit it in. Okay, so at this point in time, I can't tell you whether your font size of 12 or 13 or 14 is right, but I usually use 12. Okay, but then again, I'm using a CV, so I have a lot more pages. Okay, all right, let's see what other question. Okay, hold on. Let me see if there are any other questions. Okay, question. All right. Okay. There's a question by Intan. What are do's and don't if I want to publish the resume online, LinkedIn on a platform? I love sharing my achievement. Okay, great. Share your achievements, right, in a resume. If you want to put it online in LinkedIn, what are do's and don'ts if you want to publish? Okay, the do's and don'ts, same thing. Same thing with a offline resume. Make sure the don'ts is no error. The do's, same thing as a format, right? Because your resume, whether it is online or offline, it should be the same. Correct or not? Sama man, it's the same. The content is the same. Your education background don't change because you letak online, you graduate from UPM. Letak offline, graduate dari universiti lain. Tak mungkin kan, right? So the content is always the same. Whether is it online or offline, the contents are the same. So the do's is be consistent. The do's is be consistent. Content in your offline resume and your online resume got to be the same. Okay? If communication skills is one of your top skills, online letaklah communication skills. Offline, which is the paper resume, letak benda yang sama. Okay, jangan tukar. Because consistency is important. One day you go for an interview and the interviewer will ask you something and you can't remember. You letak ke online ke offline? You faham tak? Right? So be consistent, okay? Tapi don't, as usual, please make sure benda yang tak relevant, remove. Error, make sure 100% zero. Okay? Jafiana, what is the best chronological for resume? What's the best chronological for resume? Okay. As I mentioned, if you can see the screen is still here, right? You always start from education background and then you move to work experience. Okay, for resume. The chronological means you start from the latest, everything that's the latest all the way to the oldest. Okay, example, education you start UPM dulu, lepas tu sekolah menengah. Tak payahlah letak sekolah rendah dengan tadika. Okay, mungkin lah kat tadika ke sekolah rendah you ada banyak achievement you mau share kan, right? Tetapi as I said, your resume 2 pages only. You cannot put a lot of things. Tak boleh letak banyak-banyak benda. Okay, so don't share sampailah tadika. Saya tahu mungkin tadika you sudah tunjuk you punya leadership skills, right? But don't put it there. Okay, chronological order is always the latest to the oldest. That means the current now to the oldest. Okay. Alright. Fitri, apakah gambar semasa intern kerja dulu memainkan peranan untuk pengambilan kerja? Okay. Fitri, you're referring to the picture during your internship, right? Okay. As I mentioned on picture or photo, it is optional. If you feel that you want to put in a photo or is required by the job, please put there. If you feel that that is not required or you feel that is, I mean, you may not have a very nice photo to put in, then don't put it. It's fine. Okay. To me, it will not play a very important role in whether you get a job or not. Okay, unless it is required in the job posting. Job posting siap, mestilah attach your photo. Tapi you tak ada attach, you tak ada letak photo, guarantee lah tak dapat kerja. Right? You will never get an interview, right? Because you never follow what is required. But if it's not stated whether it's required, it's optional. I leave it to you. Okay. Right. Hazim say, in resume, do we have to put a long sentence or just simple one? I don't understand the long sentence or simple one in which context, right? I have no idea which context. I can't really answer that. Maybe Hazim, you can rephrase and elaborate a long sentence or simple one tu dalam konteks mana? Okay, dalam konteks mana? Okay.
Sir. Kita boleh jawab lagi 2 soalan je lagi.
2 soalan je. Okay.
Untuk yes.
Alright. Okay. Great. Robert asked a very good question. Is email really essential in our resume? For instance, should we use proper name in our email instead of random name? Right. Good question. Right. Yes, you must have a email in your resume. That's one. Number 2, gunalah nama betul-betul. Nama yang betul lah. Right. If your name is Robert.rr, maybe just robertrr@gmail.com. Okay. Use a proper name. Don't use a funny name. Okay. I mean, in the past, I used a funny name. I've actually a funny email. And until now, I still use that funny email because I've used it for so long. Right. But I consciously try to get myself out of the email and I use a proper email. I use the I am leegerald@gmail.com or use gerald@leegerald.com. Yeah. And I think some of you received an email from me from touchingheartsbridgingminds@gmail.com today, right? Yeah. So that is also an email that I use. Okay. So use a proper name. Don't use like random name macam luckyfish@gmail.com. Right? I mean, it doesn't make any. It doesn't mean anything, right? But it makes it very funny. And sometimes interviewer might find out, hey, are you serious or not? Right? Are you serious or not? Okay. Okay. One last question. I'll answer. By Dashura. Is it illegal or reasonable to pay or hire a professional resume writer? I'm afraid if I do silly mistake on my resume. Okay. It is not illegal. Okay. You can actually hire somebody to write for you. What is illegal is if the person writes something that is not you. Okay. You are not Superman. Tapi dalam resume dia tulis you macam Superman. So that is a big problem. Okay, so the always challenge of using a professional writer is sometimes a professional writer, they are professional, right? And you pay them money to write a resume that may make you become Superman. Okay, so that's the problem. You get me? So before you even send out your resume, even though it's written by a professional resume writer, make sure you tengok dulu lah, you teliti dulu, right? You review sendiri that resume. Okay, kalau betul-betul you bukan Superman, jangan jadi Superman. Okay, beritahu that resume writer that you are not that high. You are only here. Make sure it is realistic and it is really, really you. Okay, you understand? Huh? Make sure it is you. Okay, because your resume is a representation of you. Betul kan? It's not a representation of somebody else. And the risk of using a professional resume writer is they may try to write more because their job is to make sure your resume looks, how do you say, beautiful. Okay, and when they over beautify your resume, it becomes untrue for you. Okay, so what I would suggest is spend the money, take a better photo of yourself if you really want to, rather than hire a resume writer. Do your own resume because you will know yourself better. If tomorrow you have worked as a cashier, you will know what you have worked, what have you achieved, what have you done, right? The person won't know what is your experience. He can only write based on Google experience of a cashier, but he will not know. I mean, the writer will not know what you have actually done as a cashier in this restaurant for 3 months. He won't know. Okay, unless you tell him. But then if you're going to tell him and he's going to write, you might as well write yourself. Correct or not? Okay, all right. Okay, Shifa, I know there's a lot of questions. Maybe we will answer the question in the second segment, right? Yeah, so I pass back the floor to you.
Terima kasih Encik Gerald Lee atas penjelasan dan jawapan yang diberikan. Diharap segala kemusykilan para hadirin berkaitan dengan penulisan resume adalah terjawab. Sidang hadirin yang dirahmati sekalian, kita teruskan lagi program kita pada hari ini dengan pusingan kedua pula iaitu bengkel penulisan CV. Dengan segala hormatnya, dijemput Encik Gerald Lee untuk mengupas dengan lebih lanjut berkenaan penulisan CV. Dipersilakan.
Okay, all right, you can see my slides, right? Okay, now I'm going to move on to CV writing. CV actually stands for curriculum vitae, right? It's a Latin word. Resume is a French word. It looks like resume, but it's actually resume because there's a what's called a hyphen on top. Okay, all right. What I'm going to share with you again is based on my experience preparing CVs. Okay, I don't use resumes nowadays because my experience has gone way beyond 2 pages. Right? Let me tell you upfront. My resume is no longer in use. My CV is more than 8 pages long. Okay, it is long. All right. So what I'm going to share with you is you will find that there's a lot of similarities with a resume. As I said, in a lot of countries, there's no difference between resume and CV. In the Malaysian context, it is different because of the length and because of how detailed you want to share about yourself. Okay, so let's move on. Let me share you the criteria again. First thing first, you'll find that it's not resume, it's a CV. The format is a bit different from a resume. Okay, mind the mistake here, it's not resume format but CV format, right? The difference is the layout is very different. Of course, you will have the standard content, which is your education, your work experience, your skills, and so on and so forth. But later I'll show you a sample and you'll find that the sample is very different of a CV from a resume. Remember from resume, you have 2 columns, right? You have column on your left, sebelah kiri, where you letak your profile, your skills, your reference. On your right is your education, and so on and so forth. But in a CV, you only have 1, right? Rarely in a CV, you have 2 column format or 2 column layout. It's usually 1 column. Okay, Again, whether is it in the CV or resume, it varies according to the job applied. I've seen CVs that comes in flowers. That means the whole paper got a lot of flower, right? Flower here, flower there, whatever. There's a design, macam pattern, right? Okay, if you're applying for a creative job, if ada pattern and more creative, I think it's fine. But if you're applying for a job, let's say an engineer, very, very professional, accountant, whatever not, or working in a company as a, I don't know, as a economist or whatever not, or doing finance job, then you don't use formats that are so flowery or let's say pink in color. Yeah, I know. I've seen resume pink lah, warna ungu lah. Ayo, to me is sakit mata lah tengok. Okay, so don't do that. Go back to the photos. Remember, in the resume, I say it's optional or compulsory. In the CV, it is exactly the same. From my experience, I've never put in a photo of myself. Okay, never. Right. To me, it's not compulsory for me. Okay. However, it is the same with a resume. If the job you're applying for requires you to attach a passport size photo of yourself, please letak foto passport size. Okay. Jikalau diminta, sila letak. Jikalau tidak diminta, it becomes optional. Alright. Same thing. Spend the money, get a professional photographer to take a very good photo of yourself. Jangan suruh kawan tangkap gambar dengan handphone, right? Atau selfie sendiri. Okay, please don't do that. Right, please never do that. Never do that. Right. Okay, for a CV, usually, okay, you do not include the career or job objectives anymore. Because example, if you're already applying for your 5th or 6th jobs or 7 jobs or whatever not, right? I mean, to me, your careers and job objectives, sure, it may differ. But at the end of the day, you will have a lot of experience. Example, if you have 6 or 7 jobs like myself, you probably have worked, I don't know, more than 15 years, 20 years. Mungkin 20 tahun kerja, right? So you use a profile or an executive summary of yourself. You put an executive summary of yourself. What do you stand for? Or who are you, right? If any of you have attended my personal branding workshop, right? This is similar to that personal branding workshop where you put in your brand statement. Your brand statement is who you are and what do you stand for. Okay? Like for myself, you remember my profile at the very beginning when I intro myself is an award-winning sales professional with over X number of years, whatever not, right? You can use that. That could be your executive summary. Or motivated, dedicated sales leader with years of experience or years of proven track record, and with a forte of building winning teams in various industries. Example. So that could be a brand statement. Tells the company who you are, right? In a nutshell, right? In a nutshell. Okay. So for a CV, I would suggest you put in an executive summary or profile of yourself rather than a job objective. But if you choose to put in your career objective or job objective, it is still okay, right? As long there is something, right? Okay. For education background, it's exactly the same. It's new to all, relevant, highlights, whatever. But in a CV, I would suggest you stop at your degree level, okay? You can put in UPM if you have a bachelor, great. If you have a master, then put in UPM master, UPM degree, done, okay? No need to put until your secondary school. Because if you are already preparing a CV, as I said, CV, how many pages? Many pages, no limit. It could be 10 pages. If you already have 10 pages, I can guarantee you have worked many years in the corporate world. So if you have worked many years in corporate world, would anybody still be interested in your sekolah menengah, your secondary school results? No. Who cares about STPM? Who cares about SPM then? Or even your SRP or PMR or whatever it's called back then, right? Nobody interested. Okay, so don't put it in. Highlight only the relevant and detailed achievements. If you have Deanlish, sure. If you have 6 semesters of Deanlish, put it in. If you have certification, like myself, I'm certified in this. I'm certified in NLP coaching. So I put in NLP coaching certification from the American Board of NLP, right? So I put it in there, right? So if you have certification, please put in your certification, okay? Right. Back to work experience. Here, you put, again, relevant, but you don't need to squeeze everything into 1 page or 2 pages. Example, in a resume, if I refer back to resume, you have maximum 2 pages. Let's assume you use maximum 2 pages, right? You may have 3 jobs, right? And in all 3 jobs, you have achieved 10 things. Example, so which means you will have 3 jobs times 10 achievements, which is 30 lines. In a resume, you can't afford to put in that 30 lines because there's no space. You can only choose maybe your top 5, okay? But in a CV, because it is so-called no limitation in terms of length, you can write as much as possible and share as much as possible. If, example, if now you are working in ABC company as an engineer and you have achieved 10 things, 10 achievements during that career, during that job in ABC company, you write down, you list down all 10 achievements, okay? That's where in a CV, you can highlight all achievements. In a resume, you can only highlight key achievements, maybe your top 5 or your top 3 achievements because there is no space, okay? Same thing with courses and trainings. If you have them, please put it in. All right, personal interests. Same thing, co-curriculum, voluntary works, projects. If you have, put it in. Okay, in a CV, I don't usually list down hobbies or interests because I find that hobbies, if in a resume at the very start of your career, I think it's fine. But as you move along in your corporate world, in a CV, you don't want to put hobbies, right? Change the term to personal interests or personal achievements. Okay, and this is where you share additional information about you that is not in your education or in your work experience. Example, I take myself example, okay? I'm also a mentor at Growth Academy Asia. So that is a personal interest for me. I do voluntary work, right? I coach, I mentor students, I mentor business owners, entrepreneurs, SMEs to grow their business, right? So that is a personal interest that I will put into my resume. Into my CV, because it will not be highlighted in the work experience. It will not be highlighted in the education background, right? Because it's not relevant there, but it's relevant inside my personal achievements. Another example, very clear example, what I'm doing with you today. I'm speaking to you today on this topic, right? At a, let's say, virtual expo, alumni and career virtual expo. So I put that in. That is one of the personal achievements that I've accomplished in my life. Okay, so if you have any, please make sure you jot down, you list down. Tulis lah mana-mana, right? Because resume or CV, make sure you got to update all the time. But remember, resume, 2 pages. CV, many pages. So in the CV, you can write a lot more things. Okay, so if you are working tomorrow and you achieve something, jot down, list down, tulis lah mana-mana. Because when you want to update your CV, you akan tahu lah apa yang mau letak, right, into that CV. Okay. Skills, languages, is it optional? Is it compulsory? Well, in a resume, I always list down my skills and languages, but in a CV, I actually remove all this, right? I actually remove, seriously. I don't include any of this. I don't include languages. I don't include skills as well, because from my working experience, right? Your working experience from my achievements and my success stories, interviewers or even companies that I'm applying for will be able to pick up the skills. Okay, if I'm able to lead my team to deliver a turnover of 1.2 billion ringgit, okay, leading a team, that always shows leadership skills. Correct? Correct. It shows leadership skills. I don't need to tell people that I have leadership skills. I don't need to write down a column. Skills, leadership skills. Not important, right? I mean, it's not very important, but I find it's self-explanatory. Okay, I over-deliver targets every year, example, right? Or I deliver a cumulative average revenue growth of 50% for the last 3 consecutive years. That statement alone will indicate that I am result-driven. Example, right? Result-driven. I drive results. I make sure I achieve results consistently every year. So do we need to put a skill set results-driven, results-oriented? No need. You get me now? Because that achievement alone will tell you or tell whoever is reading the CV that you have that skills. So in a CV, I usually don't include skills or languages. However, if you choose to list down, please make sure you list down only the relevant, number 1. Number 2, list only, no rating, no ranking. Okay? And finally, of course, references upon request. Okay, upon request. In my own CV, I have no references. My references are only available upon request. If the person wants references, then I will only provide. If they don't ask, I will not provide. Okay? So references is upon request. Alright. So you find that there is some similarities, kan ada sedikit persamaan kan, dan at the same time ada sedikit perbezaan di antara resume dan CV. Tapi the differences, the perbezaan is not that ketara, it's not that not that significant, right? It's very, very small differences as well. At the same time, let me share with you a sample of a resume. If you look at a resume, as I said, nampak tak? Okay, let me change the pointer again. Okay, you'll find that the name is here, the profile, the details is all on top, right? Then he has a summary. See, he has a summary here. Summary of himself. This to me is your brand statement about yourself. Experience with all stages of the development cycle for dynamic web projects. Well versed in da 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 da. Okay, so again, if there's no right or wrong to this resume, I'm just showing this resume as an example. You can have this summary, but don't use summary, just put the executive summary. He highlighted skills. I don't highlight skills. I will remove all this. Okay, he put experience and then education. Okay, at the very beginning, I actually put education on top and then experience at the bottom. So education first, followed by experience. But in my latest CV, I actually changed it, right? So as I go along, because I have more experience than education, I put my experience on top. Okay, languages is also not important. Certification. Okay, this part of certification should be under education. So under education, once you finish your bachelor or whatever, not from UPM, if you have certification, you put in certification as a separate line. Certification, PMP or programming language, and so on and so forth. Okay? All right. Everyone clear? If you are clear, can you just put into the live chat that you are clear, so that I know you are really, really clear. Okay? Okay, great. Great. Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay. All right. So far, so good. Thank you. All right. Clear. It's good. Okay. Now we have about 277 people watching live today. Thank you for joining today's session. I know it is now 9:45, coming to 10. Okay, it's very late, right? And I'm glad that you are still here. Okay. All right, Shifa, I'll pass back the session back to you, to the MC.
Terima kasih Encik Gerald Lee atas perkongsian yang begitu jelas dan syarat dengan input sebentar tadi. Baiklah, sekali lagi kita akan bergerak ke sesi soal jawab resume untuk pusingan ini. Oleh itu, sekali lagi saya menjemput Encik Gerald Lee untuk menjawab persoalan yang ditanyakan oleh para hadirin.
Okay. Let's see if any questions. If you have any questions, just put into the chat and I'll try to answer them. Let me check. Let me stop sharing for a while. Okay, let me check if there's any. Right. Okay. Yes, there's one question from Fazli. Okay, about ATS. All right. Okay, how to know is resume is ATS friendly and will be sumo criteria. Well, I think first thing first, there's a couple of things that you need to take note, right? Give me a while. Okay. Let me share you the three things that you must make sure in ATS. Okay, first thing first, I talk about error-free, right? When I talk about error-free, so make sure that your resume or your CV is 100% accurate and correct, right? No spelling and no grammar errors. Okay, that's first thing. The second thing you need to do is to make sure that you have verb tense consistency. Okay, example, current job in present tense. Sekarang, right? Current job is what? Now. So I lead my team, lead L-E-A-D, right? I manage M-A-N-A-G-E. Previous job is always past tense. I manage, I led, I inspired, I transformed, right? So make sure your tense is consistent. Current job, present tense, previous job, past tense, okay? And number three, which very, very important, is the keywords that you must use to describe your skills, and you must use which will be picked up by the ATS. Example, if you're applying for a job as an, I don't know, maybe let's use your example, engineer. I may not be an engineer, but let's use your example as an engineer, right? What are the key skills that an engineer needs to have? Example, detail, right? Example, let's give an example. She's got to be detailed. Number two, he has got to be disciplined. Example, Number three, he has got to have creative or problem-solving skills, right? So these are the keywords you must use to describe your own skills, because it will be picked up accordingly by the system, because the system is programmed to pick up the relevant keywords. Okay, if all of you have a linking account, you'll find that in the linking account there is a column under your profile. If there's a job application, they will try to match you with that job, right? And you find that there are a few words that's being used to match your profile with that job. Example, if you have leadership skills, it will match. You say, oh, this match. If you have problem solving skills, it will show it's a match, right? So by matching all those skills, that would increase your chance of getting through that system, because the system is a system, right? As an engineer, you know it's a system. You tekan satu, dia keluar satu. So make sure you ada satu, so that dia akan pick up that satu. Okay? Right? I hope I answered that question. Okay. Okay. Carol say, sebenarnya saya masih keliru. Apa beza CV dengan resume? Macam sama je. Ya, betul. Correct. Memang macam sama tapi bukan sama. Right? It looks the same but it's not the same. Let me recap the key differences. Number one is the length. Okay? If you have very little things to talk about yourself, gunalah resume. If you have a lot of things to talk about yourself, you use a CV. Okay? Because in a resume, you are limited by space. You cannot tell a lot of your achievements. And in normal circumstances, let's say besok you keluar, you should graduate from university, from UPM, you keluar kerja, right? You will have education background. You will have probably very little work experience. Mungkin satu atau dua internship saja. So you cannot write a lot of things. Use a resume. But if you have worked for many years, example, sudah kerja 10 tahun kat corporate, okay? You have a lot of experience kan. You probably have worked 5 jobs. In that 5 jobs, you probably have achieved a lot of things. So if you achieve a lot of things, you won't use a resume anymore because cannot fit. You will use a CV because the CV will allow you, CV akan membenari you tulis menghuraikan tentang diri anda, tentang your achievements, about what you have achieved in your career. So use a CV. I hope I answered that question, Agaro. Memang macam sama. Content-nya sama, education background ada juga, work experience pun ada juga, right? All have. But what you explain in those columns are very different. In a resume, you can explain 2 lines, but in a CV, you can explain 10 lines, example, right? So it will give you a very detailed interpretation of yourself. Okay? Right. What else? Okay. If the employer or this by GJ, Gijje. Okay. If the employer already mentioned they want a resume, is it necessary to also prepare a CV for ourselves beforehand? Okay, if they want a resume, submit a resume. If they want a CV, submit a CV. If they want a resume or CV, you submit either one. But I agree with you, it is necessary to prepare a CV for ourselves beforehand, but you don't need to submit. Not necessarily you need to submit, right? Because they ask for a resume, so you don't submit a CV. But definitely you can prepare one beforehand so that you have 2. You have a resume, you have a CV. If the company wants a resume, send a resume. If the company wants a CV, you send a CV. Okay? It is never wrong to have both. I actually have both. I have a resume and a CV at the same time. However, I only submit based on the requirements. Okay? Muhammad Hifzan. Okay. What's the worst resume mistake ever the fresh graduate students selalu buat dalam CV mereka? Well, I think the worst mistake is always about errors of grammars and spelling. Okay, I always find that, I don't know, maybe they are just too anxious, right? Tak bersabar lah, nak hantar resume saja. Oh, ada kerja, hantar resume, right? Then they don't go through the details of preparing that resume. Because to me, I find it is a sin lah, right? Macam how to say that? Yeah, it's wrong lah to send a resume that's full of errors, even though it could be one small little error. Example, the THE you change to TEHT. Example, right? It is wrong, and it's wrong. You can say that it is a small error, but it's still wrong. It's still a mistake. Yeah, so please don't do that. Okay. Right. Muhammad Ashraf, what is the differences between resume for job application and scholarship interview? Is it the same? Okay. In most cases, I would like to rephrase this question. I think it's differences between sending a resume for job application and for internship, right? The difference is the objectives. Okay, because internship is short term. For a job, it's more for a career, so it's long term, right? So that will probably be the difference, but the rest of the content is pretty the same. That means your education background, your interests, your skills, and so on and so forth is the same, right? However, your question is in a scholarship interview. Okay. I don't know about scholarship interviews nowadays, whether you need to send a resume or not. I mean, this is the first time I'm hearing. From my experience, when I was applying for scholarship, I actually didn't submit a resume or a CV. I mean, CV not at that point in time, right? But what I did was to prepare a cover letter or application. Usually there's application letter, right? And usually you attach with a cover letter stating why you're applying for that scholarship, right? I don't recall a resume being used for scholarship interviews, right? I may be wrong, but I don't recall using a resume. I don't know whether it is it being used right now for scholarship interviews. Okay, yeah. So I hope I answered that. Okay, Alia asks, what's the appropriate amount of referees that we should include in a CV or resume? As I mentioned earlier, maximum 2, all right? If you do not share any, just put upon request. If you do not share anything at all, just remove that line, okay? It's not wrong to actually remove that line, okay? Let's see. Hazra mentioned, what details should be included under referees? Okay, what details? Name, Okay, where's the person working? If it's, I mean, not person working, but the designation or the title, right? If it's a lecturer, put lecturer. If it's a dean of the faculty, dean of faculty. If it's your previous superior, I mean, definitely the title, maybe manager or something. Put the title, right? The company that he is from or she is from, could be from a university or could be a company, phone number, and email. Okay, if you don't have an email, doesn't matter. Put a phone number, which is good enough. Because referees are meant for the interviewing companies to call up and check on you, right? So make sure it is a contact number or a contact email where the companies can get in touch or get hold of your referees. Okay, I hope they answer that. All right, let's see. Okay, usually in CV or resume, Muhammad Zulfais, do we need to include our achievement during secondary school? Yes, as I mentioned earlier, right? In a resume, yes, because you have nothing much to write, okay, to put up front, right? But in the CV, when you have so much thing to write, I think the last thing you want to write is your achievements in secondary school, right? Because it will become irrelevant after, let's say, 10 or 20 years of working in the corporate world. Okay, so you don't need to put in your achievements during secondary school in your CV, but in your resume, yes, it may be relevant at that point in time. Right. Okay, let me see what other questions. Hold on. Okay. All right. Okay. Which resume content are by Krishnan? Okay. Which resume content are the best? Bullet point or explanation form? Bullet point. But bullet point doesn't mean you don't explain, you know, right? Bullet point means you put a dot there and then you explain in short and concise about your achievements. Okay, when I talk about, I will presume when you mention explanation form means you're writing an essay, okay? Don't write an essay, all right? Don't write an essay about the content, right? Write very short, very clear about your achievements. If you achieve, let's say you achieve 1 million in 3 months, put a dot, right? With a bulletproof form, achieve 3 million in sales within 3 months. That's it, good enough, okay? No, you write there, I have achieved 3 million working with 10 people in 3 months, right? Over the period of whatever not, and this is what I do. Okay, you have no space. Okay, especially in the CV, you have no space. Okay, so please don't need to elaborate that long. Go straight to the point. Okay. Renisha, do we need to include a CGPA or XPN results? Okay. CGPA, yes, because it's your latest information about your education, right? Put in, of course, CGPA 4.0. Either you fall flat or you fall flat. Okay. All right. So if you have 3.8, 2.0, whatever not, just put in. SPN result, again, if you feel that is needed to highlight your results, please put it in, especially for resume. But for your CV, it is not necessary. Okay. Right. Okay. Noraihan. For CV promotion application, what needs to be emphasized? What is this CV promotion? I don't understand the promotion word here. Is it you're currently working and you got promoted to a job? Is that what is meant? Noraihan, maybe you can help to explain that. Yeah. Okay, while I wait for her to clarify, let's move on to the next question. By K1, achievements during matriculation or foundation relevant? Yes, of course. In a resume, definitely. Just to recap, you start with your university, then go into matriculation or foundation, right, or your diploma, whatever not, right? So at least those achievements is necessary. However, if you move into a CV mode, in the CV format, you can leave all those out. You just put in your university, because by then you probably have a PhD or master's. You put in your PhD or master's. Okay. Right. Okay. Malik, I think you are probably answering for Noraihan, right? She's already working. Okay, if you are already working, I've not come across a situation where you need to apply for a promotion, right? If you are, qualified or you deserve to be promoted, the company will likely promote you, right? Unlikely there is an application for promotion, but there is definitely a application for a lateral move. That means if you are in sales right now and you find that you want to move into HR, example, right? And you can move into HR if you want to. And in most cases, it's always an internal job posting that will happen within the company. You don't need to submit a CV or resume to get yourself promoted, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, you don't need to. Yeah, Norahan, you don't need to get yourself promoted by submitting a resume or CV. Resume or CV won't apply in this context. A promotion in a job, I mean, in your current job to a new job or new role, it will usually happen within the company itself, and usually your immediate superior will make that decision, right? So you don't need to submit a resume or CV for a promotion. Okay. Again, I've never come across a situation where I need to submit a resume or CV to get myself promoted, right? If I'm due for promotion, the company will promote me. If I deserve that promotion, they will promote me. Yeah, so in most cases it happens that way. Okay. All right. Is there any further questions? Any further questions? Any further questions? Let me see. Give me a while. Let me scroll down because there's a lot of questions. Let me scroll down. ATS is done. What are some tips to consider? Okay, there's question by Hidayah Sky. What are some tips to consider in a cover letter? Well, okay. A cover letter is very, very different from a resume or CV, because in a resume or CV, in most cases, is point form, right? In a cover letter, that's where you probably need to elaborate, right? And that's where you need to write sentences. Okay. Example, with my proven track record, with my proven track record in sales, I believe I could be of value, or I could be a good fit for the company. Example, right? So you write that sentence in a cover letter, but you don't write that in a resume or a CV. You understand? Yeah. So a cover letter, it is elaborated of yourself, right? If you have these leadership qualities or certain skills, you highlight in a cover letter, but you don't highlight in a point form. You highlight in sentence form. Okay, the sentence form. Okay. Malik, I mean, if you all need me to come back for another session on cover letter, I'm more than happy to do so. All right. Yeah. Let's see. Amelia said question in future. Yeah, I'll give you my contact, Emily, right? If you are registered for this session earlier, you probably have gotten an email from me at touchingheartsbridgingminds@gmail.com. You can contact me by writing email to me. I will reply, right? Okay. Noraihan said UPM we have to submit. Submit what again? Maybe I need to be clarified. Okay. JX, right. If the company didn't specify either CV, CV or resume, is it more preferable to send in a CV than a resume? Okay. Go back to the purpose of why are you submitting that, right? If you have nothing much to write, okay, or you have just graduated from the university, go with a resume. Okay, if you have worked many years and you want to highlight your achievements, as I said, highlight all your achievements, then use a CV. Okay. Okay, so UPM request for CV. All right, if UPM request for CV, then prepare CV. Okay, I mean, again, I don't know what's the intent of all this, but if the university is requesting for a CV, please prepare a CV. If they are requesting for a resume, please prepare a resume. Okay. Few keynotes, as I mentioned many times again, right? The length is important. CV longer, resume shorter. Content about the same. The only difference is in a CV is more elaborated. You tulis banyak sikit. right? In a resume, you tulis sikit, tetapi compact, short, sweet, focus. In a CV, you write longer. You can share a lot more things, okay? Under which category in resume do we include if we receive any scholarship by Azra? Okay, question I want to ask is it relevant? Is it important? Okay, always ask yourself this question before you put in the content in your resume or even your CV. Is that content important and is it relevant to the job that you're applying for? If it's not important, it's not relevant, no point putting in. Okay, because it's not going to give you additional points, right? So again, is just ask yourself, is it important? Okay. Right.
Sir, saya rasa itu adalah penutup soalan untuk kita hari ini.
Okay. Let me see.
Okay.
I don't think there's any more questions. Yeah, there's no more questions. Yep. There's no more questions. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for all your questions. I hope I've answered as much as I could, and I answered as detailed as I could as well. I hope it is good enough, and I hope you have learned some tips or two during this short session with me today. Right. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think I've gone off the grid again. You see all yellow and green and whatever not. Okay. All right. So I pass back the floor to Shifa. Yeah, Shifa. Thank you. All right. So if you find that today's session has been good and you learned something good today, can you just put down into the live chat so that I know that you have learned something? Right. Just put down some good comments that you have learned something good today in the
Terima
session.
kasih.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Shifa, I pass back to you. Alright.
Baiklah. Terima kasih Encik Gerald Lee atas penjelasan dan jawapan yang diberikan. Diharap segala kemusykilan para hadirin berkaitan dengan penulisan CV adalah terjawab dan dapat dipraktikkan. Maka dengan ini berakhirlah sudah program Professional CV and Resume Writing Workshop kita pada hari ini. Mengambil kesempatan dan peluang ini, saya mewakili seluruh jawatan kuasa pelaksana dan warga Kolej 10 UPM dengan ini mengucapkan setinggi-tinggi penghargaan dan ucapan terima kasih atas kesudian Encik Lee kerana bersama-sama dengan kita pada hari ini berkongsi ilmu berkaitan penulisan VT, kurikulum dan resume. Semoga inisiatif seumpama ini dapat memberi manfaat kepada kita semua untuk diaplikasikan pada masa akan datang. Besarlah harapan kami, semoga kerjasama baik seumpama ini dapat diusahakan lagi kelak. Terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Encik Gerald Lee. Terima kasih banyak-banyak. Dengan berakhirnya pusingan kedua bengkel sebentar tadi, maka tamatlah sudah program kita pada malam ini. Perhatian kepada semua peserta yang hadir pada hari ini. Sebentar lagi, kod QR akan dipaparkan. Bagi kod QR ini, tujuannya adalah untuk merekod kehadiran pelajar dan seterusnya pemberian merit dan ECG. Justeru, saya mohon jasa baik anda bersiap sedia dengan pengimbas kod QR di telefon bimbit masing-masing. Sekian sahaja dari kami. Sekali lagi, saya ingin mengucapkan ribuan terima kasih kepada semua yang sudi hadir pada hari ini. Jumpa lagi kita di slot kedua bagi program Alumni dan Career Virtual Expo pada 4 Jun 2021. Sesungguhnya segala yang baik datangnya dari dia, yang kurang datangnya dari kita sendiri.